Respected time, dear noble community. This morning we'll be practicing sitting meditation before we start our Sunday service. We invite you to find yourself a comfortable posture. If you're sitting on a chair, you can place both your feet on the ground. And those who are sitting on a cushion, you can sit at least 1/3 or half of the cushion. Keep your back upright. Relax your shoulders. Your hands can be placed on your lap or your knees. You may like to close your eyes. Keep a light smile on your face. And relax your whole body. Sau khi chuẩn tư thế xong, mời đại chúng chú tâm về hơi thở. Để ý những hơi thở ra vào. Thở vào, nhận biết đây là hơi thở vào. Thở ra, nhận biết đây là hơi thở ra. Vào, ra. Mình không cần dùng ép hơi thở. Mình thở tự nhiên và nhẹ nhàng. Once you establish your posture, bring all your attention to your breathing. Become aware of your in-breath as you breathe in. Become aware of out-breath as you breathe out. In, out. There's no need to control or force your breathing. Breathe naturally and gently. Mình sẽ bắt đầu buổi thiền bằng 3 tiếng chuông. We'll begin the session with 3 sounds of the bell. Thở vào. Tôi biết tôi đang thở vào. Thở ra. Tôi biết tôi đang thở ra. Vào. Ra. Breathing in. I know that I'm breathing in. Breathing out. I know that I'm breathing out. In, out. vào, hơi thở vào càng sâu. Thở ra, hơi thở ra càng chậm, sâu, chậm. Breathing in, my in breath grows deep. Breathing out, my out breath goes slow. Deep, slow. Thở vào, ý thức toàn thân. Thở ra, buông thơ toàn thân. Ý thức buông thơ. Breathing in, I become aware of my whole body. Breathing out, I relax my whole body. Aware body, relaxing body. Thở vào, tâm tĩnh lặng. Thở ra, settled. Breathing out, I smile. Settled, smiling. Xả chân, xoa bóp. Please take some time to release, massage your legs. Mình xin nhắc nhở đại chúng vì nào có cell phone xin nhớ tắt cell phone hoặc chuyển qua chế độ room để mình giữ buổi lễ thanh tịnh và trang nghiêm. Reminder for those who have a cell phone, please make sure you turn off your cell phone or switch it to vibrate mode so they keep the atmosphere of the assembly serene. Thank you.
Xin mời đại chúng phát quyển kinh mở trang số 0. Please turn to page 0. Trong hướng đông sáng ngời mười phương, nguyện kết đấng nghiệp từ vô lượng, cầu xin chứng thông thờ chúng con và khói kết mây lại cúng dường đà niệm mau đã làm truyền nơi cùng nơi, nhạy chân lý chúng sanh đều thoát luân hồi, đồng quy kế vị giới đại sen dân hóa tạo tế Đại quang minh sa vi hòa trang nghiêm, ở mười phương điều nữ hào quang an lành. Niên đạo viết chuyên soi khắp cầu quần sanh. Phật đạo đồng cùng nhau tu tế tam ma viên thành. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật.
In gratitude we offer this incense
Throughout space and time to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting careful efforts, wholehearted awareness, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripening. May we and all be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home.
The one who bows and the one who is bowed to
Are both by nature empty. Therefore the communication between them is inexpressibly perfect. Our practice center is the net of Indra, reflecting all Buddhas everywhere. And with my person in front of each Buddha, I go with my whole life for refuge.
offering light in the 10 directions.
The Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, to whom we bow in gratitude.
Nhất tâm kính lễ phục pháp tăng thường trụ trong mười phương. Teach and living the way of awareness in the very midst of suffering and confusion.
Shakyamuni Buddha, the fully enlightened one, to whom we bow in gratitude.
Nhất tâm kính lễ Đức Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni. Showing the way fearlessly and compassionately,
The stream of our ancestral teachers, to whom we bow in gratitude.
nhất tâm kính lễ những vị tổ sư ban các thời đại từ Đại chúng cho đến Việt Nam. Mời đại chúng cùng an toàn. Please be seated.
Xin mời đại chúng mở trang số 4. Please turn to page 4. The Dharma is deep and lovely. We now have a chance to see, study, and to practice it. We vow to realize its true meaning. Nam mô A Đơn Bồ Ma Sư Bồ Ma Thích Ca Mâu Ni. Nam mô Đơn Bồ Sư Bồ Ma Thích Ca Mâu Ni. Nam mô Đơn Bồ Sư Bồ Ma Thích Ca Mâu Ni. Pháp Bồ Cao siêu mẫu niệm cơ duyên mấy đứa thọ trì sinh quyền đi vào biến tuệ tinh thân giáo nghĩa quyền vi kinh tế yêu ban nhà ba la mật đa bồ tát quan tự tại quan chiếu tâm sâu ban nhà ma la mật hơi diệu pháp trí đời bọn soi thấy năm quần điều không có tự tán thực chứng điều ai sao ngài vừa thoát tất cả mọi khổ não ám nan. Nghe đây xa lời từ xa chẳng khác kỳ không không trần khác gì xa xa. Chính thần là không có, chính thần là xa, còn lại vô vô kia cũng đều như vậy cả. Xa lời từ nghe đây thầy mỗi pháp điều không không sanh cũng không gì. Giờ cũng không xa không theo cũng không bớt cho nên trong tân không có xa khổ từ cũng không có hành thân không có nhà nhị tỳ địa thân đi sáu căn không có xa thân vì xuất phát sáu trần không có 18 giới từ giả đến ý thức không hề có vô men không có vô men cho đến không đạo từ cũng không hết đạo từ không khổ tập diệt đạo không trí cũng không đắc vì không có sợi đắc khi một vị Bồ Tát nêu diệu pháp trí đồ ba nhà ba la mà thì tâm không chướng ngại vì tâm không chướng ngại nên không có sợ hãi. Xa lìa mọi mộng tưởng xa lìa mọi thiên đạo đà nhiếp mà tùy đối chư Bồ trong ba đại diệu pháp trí độ nhà ba la mà na đa vô thử giác vậy nha phải biết ra ba nhà là lên chư đại thằng là lên chư đại minh là lên chư vô thường là lên chư tuyệt định là trần ly vấn vào ngọn án định tiêu trừ tất cả mọi khổ để cho nên tôi muốn thiết câu thằng chư tri đồ ba nhà ba la mà nói soi đất Bồ Tát liền lòng thằng chú ra ga thế bà ra sam ga thế bồ đề so ga thế bà ra sam ga thế bồ đề sa ba ga thế bà ra thế sam ga thế bồ đề sa.
Xin đại chúng đồng lắng lòng nghe và chiêm nghiệm. Phật dạy kinh kim cương gươm báo cắt đứt phiền não. Đây là những điều tôi được nghe hồi bụt còn ở tại tu viện Kỳ Thọ cấp Cô Độc Rần Thành Xá Về, với đại chúng khất sĩ gồm 1.250 vị. Hôm ấy vào giờ khất thực, Bụt mặc áo và ôm bát đi vào thành Xá Về. Trong thành, người theo phép tuần tự ghé từng nhà để khất thực. Khất thực xong, người về lại tu viện thọ trai. Thọ trai xong, người xếp y bát, rửa chân, trải tọa cụ mà ngồi. Lúc ấy từ chỗ ngồi của mình trong đại chúng, thượng tọa tu Bồ Đề đứng dậy, chịch vai áo bên phải ra, quỳ chân trái xuống, chắp tay cung kính bạch với Bụt rằng: Thế Tôn, người thật là bậc hiếm có. Thế Tôn thường đặc biệt hộ niệm và giao phó sự nghiệp cho các vị Bồ Tát. Thế Tôn, những người con trai hiền và những người con gái hiền nào muốn phát tâm vô thượng, chánh đẳng, chánh giác thì nên nương tựa vào đâu và làm sao mà điều phục tâm mình? Bụt bảo tu Bồ Đề: các bậc Bồ Tát đại nhân nên hàng phục tâm mình bằng cách quán niệm như sau đây. Có cả thảy bao nhiêu loại chúng sanh, hoặc sinh từ trứng, hoặc sinh từ thai, hoặc sinh từ sự ẩm thấp, hoặc từ sự biến hóa, hoặc có hình sắc, hoặc không có hình sắc, hoặc có tri giác, hoặc không có tri giác, hoặc không phải không có tri giác, cũng không phải không có tri giác. Ta đều phải đưa tất cả các loài ấy vào niết bàn tuyệt đối, để tất cả đều được giải thoát cho vô số, vô lượng, vô biên chúng sanh như thế, mà kỳ thực ta không thấy có chúng sanh nào được giải thoát. Vì sao? Này tu Bồ Đề, nếu một vị Bồ Tát mà còn có khái niệm về ngã, về nhân, về chúng sanh và về thọ giả, thì vị ấy chưa phải là một vị Bồ Tát đích thực. Này nữa, thầy tu Bồ Đề, vị Bồ Tát thực hiện phép bố thí nhưng không dựa vào bất cứ một thứ gì, nghĩa là không dựa vào sắc để bố thí, không dựa vào thanh, hương, vị, xúc và pháp để bố thí. Tu Bồ Đề, Bồ Tát nên bố thí theo tinh thần ấy, không dựa vào tướng. Tại sao? Nếu Bồ Tát bố thí mà không dựa vào tướng thì phước sẽ được không thể nghĩ bàn. Tu Bồ Đề, thầy nghĩ sao? Không gian về phương Đông có thể nghĩ và lường được không? Bạch Đức Thế Tôn, không. Này thầy tu Bồ Đề, không gian về phương Tây, phương Nam, phương Bắc, phương trên và phương dưới có thể nghĩ và lường được không? Bạch Đức Thế Tôn, không. Này thầy tu Bồ Đề, nếu Bồ Tát không dựa vào đâu để thực hiện phép bố thí thì phước cũng nhiều như hư không vậy, không thể nghĩ được và không thể lường được. Này tu Bồ Đề, các vị Bồ Tát nên chú tâm theo những lời chỉ dẫn vừa đưa ra. Tu Bồ Đề, thầy nghĩ sao? Có thể nhận diện Như Lai qua thân tướng này hay không? Bạch Thế Tôn, không. Cái mà Như Lai nói là thân tướng vốn không phải là thân tướng. Bụt bảo thầy tu Bồ Đề, nơi nào có tướng là nơi đó còn có sự lường gạt. Nếu thấy được tính cách không tướng của các tướng, tức là đã thấy được Như Lai. Thầy tu Bồ Đề thưa với Bụt rằng: Bạch Đức Thế Tôn, trong tương lai khi nghe những câu nói như thế, người ta có thể phát sanh được lòng tin chân thật hay không? Bụt bảo: thầy đừng nói vậy. 500 năm sau, khi Như Lai diệt độ, vẫn sẽ có người biết giữ giới và biết tu phước. Và những người ấy khi nghe được những lời như trên cũng có thể phát sinh lòng tin và nhận ra đó là sự thật. Ta nên biết rằng những người ấy đã gieo trồng những hạt giống tốt không phải ở nơi một vị Bụt, 2 vị Bụt, 3, 4, 5 vị Bụt, mà thật sự đã gieo trồng những hạt giống lành ở nơi vô lượng ngàn muôn vị Bụt. Người nào chỉ cho một giây phút thôi phát được tâm niềm tin thanh tịnh khi nghe những lời và những câu ấy, thì Như Lai tất nhiên biết được người ấy, thấy được người ấy, và người ấy sẽ đạt được vô lượng phước đức như thế. Vì sao? Vì những người như thế không còn kẹt vào những khái niệm về ngã, về nhân, về chúng sanh và về thọ giả, về Pháp, về không phải Pháp, về tướng và về không phải tướng. Vì sao nếu còn chấp vào ý niệm Pháp thì vẫn còn kẹt vào các tướng ngã, nhân, chúng sanh, thọ giả. Và nếu còn chấp vào ý niệm không phải Pháp thì cũng vẫn còn kẹt vào tướng ngã, nhân, chúng sanh và thọ giả như thường. Thế cho nên đã không nên chấp vào Pháp mà cũng không nên chấp vào không phải Pháp. Vì vậy mà Như Lai đã mật ý nói: này các vị khất sĩ, nên biết rằng Pháp mà tôi nói được ví như chiếc bè, Pháp còn nên buông bỏ, huống là không phải Pháp. Bụt hỏi thầy Tu Bồ Đề: thuở xưa lúc còn theo học với Bụt Nhiên Đăng, Như Lai có đắc Pháp gì chăng? Bạch Đức Thế Tôn: không. Ngày xưa khi còn ở với Bụt Nhiên Đăng, Như Lai không đắc Pháp gì cả. Tu Bồ Đề: thầy nghĩ sao? Bồ Tát có trang nghiêm cõi Bụt chăng? Bạch Đức Thế Tôn: không. Vì sao? Trang nghiêm cõi Bụt tức là không trang nghiêm cõi Bụt, vì vậy nên mới gọi là trang nghiêm cõi Bụt. Như thế đó, thầy Tu Bồ Đề, các vị Bồ Tát và Đại Nhân nên phát tâm thanh tịnh theo tinh thần ấy, không nên dựa vào sắc mà phát tâm, cũng không nên dựa vào thanh, hương, vị, xúc và pháp mà phát tâm, chỉ nên phát tâm trong tinh thần vô trụ. Tu Bồ Đề ơi, Bồ Tát khi phát tâm Bồ Đề vô thượng thì nên buông bỏ tất cả các khái niệm, không nên dựa vào sắc mà phát tâm, không nên dựa vào thanh, hương, vị, xúc và pháp mà phát tâm, chỉ nên phát tâm vô trụ. Như Lai đã nói tất cả các khái niệm đều không phải là khái niệm, và tất cả các loài chúng sanh đều không phải là chúng sanh. Tu Bồ Đề, Như Lai là kẻ nói lời chính xác, là kẻ nói lời đúng với sự thật, là kẻ nói lời phù hợp với thực tại, là kẻ nói lời không dối trá, là kẻ chỉ nói một lời. Tu Bồ Đề, nếu có Pháp mà Như Lai đã đắc thì Pháp ấy không phải thật, cũng không phải hư. Tu Bồ Đề, nếu Bồ Tát còn dựa vào Pháp mà thực hiện bố thí thì cũng như đi vào bóng tối chẳng thấy được gì. Trái lại, nếu Bồ Tát không dựa vào Pháp mà bố thí thì cũng như người có mắt đi trong ánh mặt trời, có thể thấy được mọi hình và mọi sắc. Tu Bồ Đề, các vị đừng bảo rằng Như Lai có ý niệm ta sẽ độ chúng sanh. Tu Bồ Đề, đừng nghĩ như thế. Tại sao vậy? Sự thật thì không có chúng sanh nào để cho Như Lai độ. Nếu Như Lai nghĩ là Như Lai có thì Như Lai đã vướng vào khái niệm ngã, khái niệm nhân, khái niệm chúng sanh và khái niệm thọ giả rồi. Tu Bồ Đề, cái mà Như Lai nói là vốn. Ngã vốn không phải là có ngã, mà người phàm lại cho là có ngã. Này Tu Bồ Đề, kẻ phàm phu đó Như Lai không cho đó là phàm phu, cho nên mới gọi họ là phàm phu. Tu Bồ Đề, thầy nghĩ sao? Có nên quán tưởng Như Lai qua 32 tướng không? Tu Bồ Đề nói: thưa vâng, phải dùng 32 tướng mà quán Như Lai. Bụt nói: nếu nói lấy 32 tướng mà quán Như Lai thì một vị chuyển lưng Thánh Vương cũng là Như Lai hay sao? Tu Bồ Đề nói: Thế Tôn, con hiểu lời Bụt dạy rồi, không nên dùng 32 tướng mà quán Như Lai. Lúc bấy giờ Thế Tôn liền nói bài kệ này: tìm ta qua hình sắc, cầu ta qua âm thanh, là kẻ hành tà đạo, không thể thấy Như Lai. Tu Bồ Đề, thầy đừng nghĩ rằng Như Lai đạt tới vô thượng chánh đẳng chánh giác mà không cần tới các tướng một cách đầy đủ. Tu Bồ Đề, đừng nghĩ như thế. Tu Bồ Đề, thầy đừng nghĩ là khi phát tâm vô thượng chánh đẳng chánh giác, ta phải coi các pháp là hư vô đoạn diệt. Đừng nghĩ như thế. Kẻ phát tâm vô thượng chánh đẳng chánh giác không chủ trương rằng các pháp là hư vô hay đoạn diệt. Sau khi nghe Bụt nói kinh này, Thượng tọa Tu Bồ Đề và các vị khất sĩ, nữ khất sĩ U Bà Tắc, U Bà Di và tất cả các giới trời, người và Atula đều rất hoan hỷ, tin tưởng và tiếp nhận để thực hành.
Dear noble community, please listen to Discourse, the diamond that cuts through illusion. This is why I heard one time when the Buddha was staying in a monastery in the Anapadika Park in the Jeddah Grove near Shravasti with a community of 1,250 bhikkhus, fully ordained monks. That day, when it was time to make the alms round, the Buddha put on his Sangati robe and holding his bowl, went to the city of Shravasti to beg for food, going from house to house. When the alms round was completed, he returned to the monastery to eat the midday meal. Then he put away his Sangati robe and his bowl, washed his feet, arranged his cushion, and sat down. At that time, the Venerable Subodhi stood up, bared his right shoulder, put his knee on the ground, and folding his palms respectfully, said to the Buddha, "World honored one, it is rare to find someone like you. You always support and show special confidence in the Bodhisattvas. World honored one, if sons and daughters of good families want to give rise to the highest, most fulfilled, awakened mind, what should they rely on? What should they do to master their thinking?" The Buddha said to Subodhi, "This is how the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas master their thinking. However many species of living beings there are, whether born from eggs, from the womb, from moisture, or spontaneously, whether they have form or do not have form, whether they have perceptions or do not have perceptions, or whether it cannot be said of them that they have perceptions or that they do not have perceptions, we must lead all these beings to nirvana so that they can be liberated. Yet, when this innumerable, immeasurable, infinite number of beings has become liberated, we do not, in truth, think that a single being has been liberated. Why is it so? If, Subodhi, a bodhisattva holds onto the idea that a self, a person, a living being, or a lifespan exists, that person is not a true bodhisattva. Moreover, Subodhi, when a bodhisattva practices generosity, he does not rely on any object, any form, sound, smell, taste, tactile object, or dharma to practice generosity. That, Subodhi, is the spirit in which a bodhisattva practices generosity, not relying on science. Why? If a bodhisattva practices generosity without relying on science, the happiness that the results cannot be conceived of or measured. Subodhi, do you think that the space in the eastern quarter can be measured? No, World Honored One. Subodhi, can space in the western, southern, or northern quarters above or below be measured? No, World Honored One. If a bodhisattva does not rely on any concept while practicing generosity, the happiness that results from that virtuous act is as great as space. It cannot be measured. Subodhi, the bodhisattvas should let their minds dwell in the teachings I have just given. What do you think? Is it possible to grasp the Tathagata by means of bodily signs? No, World Honored One. When the Tathagata speaks of bodily signs, there are no signs being talked about. The Buddha said to Subodhi, in a place where there is something that can be distinguished by signs, in that place there is deception. If you can see the signless nature of signs, you can see the Tathagata. The Venerable Subodhi said to the Buddha, in times to come, will there be people who, when they hear these teachings, have real faith and confidence in them? The Buddha replied, do not speak that way, Subodhi. 500 years after the Tathagata has passed away, there will still be people who appreciate the joy and happiness that come from observing the precepts. When such people hear these words, they will have faith and confidence that this is the truth. Know that such people have sown seed not only during the lifetime of one Buddha, or even 2, 3, 4, or 5 Buddhas, but have in fact planted wholesome seeds during the lifetimes of tens of thousands of Buddhas. Anyone who, for even a moment, gives rise to a pure and clear confidence upon hearing these words of the Tathagata sees and knows that person, and he or she will attain immeasurable happiness because of this understanding. Why? Because that person is not caught in the idea of himself, a person, living being, or a lifespan. He or she is not caught in the idea of a dharma or the idea of a non-dharma. He or she is not caught in the notion that this is a sign and that is not a sign. Why? If you are caught in the idea of a Dharma, you are also caught in ideas of a self, a person, a living being in a lifespan. If you are caught in the idea that there is no Dharma, you are still caught in the idea of a self, a person, a living being in a lifespan. That is why we should not get caught in Dharmas, or in the idea that Dharmas do not exist. This is the hidden meaning when the Tathagata says, Bhikkhus, you should know that all the teachings I give to you are a raft. All teachings must be abandoned, not to mention non-teachings. The Buddha asked Bodhi, in ancient times when the Tathagata practiced under the guidance of the Buddha Dipakara, did the Tathagata attain anything? Subodhi answered, no, World Honored One. In ancient times when the Tathagata practiced under the guidance of the Buddha Dipakara, he did not attain anything. What do you think, Subodhi? Does a Bodhisattva create a serene mind and beautiful Buddha field? No, World Honored One. Why? To create a serene and beautiful Buddha field is not, in fact, to create a serene and beautiful Buddha field. That is why it is called creating a serene and beautiful Buddha field. The Buddha said, so, all the Buddha, Bodhisattva, Mahasattvas should give rise to pure and clear intention in the spirit. When they give rise to this intention, they should not rely on forms, sounds, smells, tastes, tactile objects, or objects of mind. They should give rise to an intention with their minds not dwelling anywhere. So, Subodhi, when a Bodhisattva gives rise to the unequaled mind of awakening, he has to give up all ideas. He cannot rely on forms when he gives rise to that mind, nor on sounds, smells, tastes, tactile objects, or objects of mind. He can only give rise to the mind, and that is not caught in anything. The Tathagata has said that all notions are not notions, and that all living beings are not living beings. Subodhi, the Tathagata is one who speaks of things as they are, speaks what is true, and speaks in accord with reality. He does not speak deceptively or to please people. Subodhi, if we say that the Tathagata has realized a teaching, that teaching is neither graspable nor deceptive. A Bodhisattva who still depends on notions to practice generosity is like someone walking in the dark. She will not see anything, but when a Bodhisattva does not depend on notions to practice generosity, she is like someone with good eyesight walking under the bright light of the sun. She can see all shapes and colors. Subodhi, do not say that the Tathagata has the idea. I will bring living beings to the shore of liberation. Do not think that way. Why? In truth, there is not one single being for the Tathagata to bring to the other shore. If the Tathagata were to think there was, he would be caught in the idea of a self, a person, a living being, or a lifespan. What the Tathagata calls a self essentially has no self in the way that ordinary persons think there is a self. The Tathagata does not regard anyone as an ordinary person. That is why he can call them ordinary persons. What do you think, Subodhi? Can someone meditate on the Tathagata by means of the 32 marks? Subodhi said, yes, World Honored One. We should use the 32 marks to meditate on the Tathagata. The Buddha said, if you say that you can use the 32 marks to see the Tathagata, that the Kakabantan is also a Tathagata? Subodhi said, World Honored One, I understand your teaching. One should not use the 32 marks to meditate on the Tathagata. Then the World Honored One spoke this verse. Someone who looks for me in form or seeks me in sound is on a mistaken path. It cannot see the Tathagata. Subodhi, if you think that the Tathagata realizes the highest, most fulfilled, awakened mind, it does not need to have all the marks. You are wrong. Do not think in that way. Do not think that when one gives rise to the highest, most fulfilled, awakened mind, one needs to see all objects of mind as non-existent, cut off from life. Do not think in that way. One who gives rise to the highest, most fulfilled, awakened mind does not say that all objects of mind are non-existent and cut off from life. After they heard the Lord Buddha deliver this discourse, the Venerable Subodhi, the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, laymen, laywomen, gods and asuras, filled with joy and confidence, began to put these teachings into practice.
Xin mời đại chúng mở trang 16. Please turn to page 16. chúng con đường nơi đây trong phút giây hiện tại, bao bờ bởi tăng thân thấy mình may mắn sinh ra được làm người có số dạo cho pháp Bồ Đề tưới tầm, lại có duyên được sống hòa trong tăng thân, năng lượng của tăng đoàn giới lớp và huy nghi đã bảo hộ cho con không để dây lòng loài con bị diệt sâu đầy, đi về theo tối tâm lại được cô bạn hiền, đi trên đường cho thiền có ánh sáng chiếu soi của Bụt và Bồ Tát, thì có mà trong con những hạt giống khổ đau phiền não và tà khí, nhờ chánh niệm hiện tiền và lượng luôn biểu hiện giúp cho con tiếp xúc với những gì màu niệm mà có mặt trong tự thân, và có mà với con sáu căn còn đầy đủ, mắt thấy được trời xanh, tai nghe tiếng chim hót, mùi người thấy hương trầm, lời nếm đưa pháp vì thế nói có vững chài ý họ nhớ với thân, nếu không có thế tôn, nếu không có nhiều pháp, nếu không có tăng đoàn, làm sao có may mắn được pháp là hôm nay có phước tu tập này, có cũng sẽ hành trì cho gia đình dòng họ cho thế hệ tương lai, và cả cho xã hội. Niềm an lạc của con lại vốn liếng tu tập, con xin nguyện vốn con tới tập nuôi dưỡng ba chánh niệm hàng ngày trong xã hội của con. Bao nhiêu người đau khổ chịu đau trong năm dục ganh ghét và hận thù, thấy được những cảnh ấy có quyết tâm hành trì điều phục những tâm hành tham đắm và dần dáng sống hàng ngày và trực tiếp tham gia vào sự nghiệp độ sinh của Bổn và Bồ Tát. Giây phút này quý báo niệm biết ơn trang nhân xin lại Đức Thế Tôn chứng minh và điệp thọ. Xin mời chúng mở trang số 22. Please turn to page 22. Nguyện dạy an là đem an lành dạy đem sáu thời điều an lành trong mỗi giây mỗi phút cầu tam bảo lưu che chở. Nam mô Đức Bồ Tát tiêu tai gian kiến tường. Nam mô Đức Bồ Tát tiêu tai gian kiến tường. Nam mô Đức Bồ Tát tiêu tai gian kiến tường. Con về nước tự Bồ mà đưa đường chỉ lối cho con trong cuộc đời. Con về nước tự Pháp con được của tên thưa và sự hiểu biết. Con về nước tự Tăng đoàn thể của những người nguyện sống cuộc đời tệ thân chỉ tôn kế tham diệu ta con được vô biên để tự sự hồi hướng cho chúng sanh hồi biệt. Pháp môn sinh nguyện hồng nghĩa sinh nguyện đều phiền não sinh nguyện hòa bồ xế trường nên. Nam mô thập phương thường trụ tam bảo tác đại chứng minh. Hôm nay phụng nguyện tam bảo chứng minh quay thần hộ niệm Bồ Tát Thanh Văn Phạm Vương Đệ Thích Tứ Thiên Vương. Chúng thiên long bát bộ hộ báo Thanh Vương nhân thiết thiền thần tùy tự ủng hộ đệ tử chúng con trì tụng kinh niệm Phật. Công đức hồi hướng kỳ an cho chư vị Phật tử lễ thì bế pháp danh Hoàng Chánh. Hoàng Liên cho pháp danh Diệu Vũ Viện thì Bạch Tuyết pháp danh Minh Nồng. Phạm Xuân Khánh Triết Chu Thiếu Phương Vương thì Hòa pháp danh Hải Nhân. Quyền mạch Phương Thủy quyền mạnh Phúc A Nộc Lan. Nguyện chư vị Phật tử niệm chướng tiêu trừ binh bình cẩn thuyên giam. Đất cam lò pháp vì thọ linh đưa thanh lơ tư tai kinh na viễn ly khổ ách. Nguyện cầu kỳ siêu cho chư vị hương linh. Trương nằm kia pháp gia đức nhân. Nguyện thì bổn pháp nhân đồng ký Chuck Bell Levins Liam Lâm Alberto pháp danh Quang Minh. Định Ngọc Dung pháp danh Chân Phương Nhẫn. Nguyện Thị Sinh Nguyện Thái Thành pháp danh Minh Đào. Trần Tuấn Kiệt pháp danh Quang Minh. Lê Chuyên Nguyễn Minh Hồng pháp danh Quang Minh. Trần Hữu Nghĩa Tài Thị Trí pháp danh Tỉnh Thức. Trần Nồng Nhung Devi Bùi Văn Nhân pháp danh Quảng Niên. Lại thì bế pháp danh Nồng Hảo. Ân Triều Thành Hoàng Phước Lai. Nguyên Bích Thủy pháp danh Nguyên Từ. Trần Minh Tuấn pháp danh Minh Lạc. Vườn Việt Tân pháp danh Pháp Hành. Lâm Thi Kiêu pháp danh Diệu Nôn. Nguyện chư vị hương linh trường nhờ công đức hương linh trong suốt tâm thức nhẹ nhàng. Nhờ tiếng kinh giác nộ trần gian. Nhờ phần lần thoát vòng mê nghiệp chướng sen chính phẩm sanh về bần thường. Phần 10 phương tiếp ở phương Tây. Nguyện chư vị hương linh mau đăng an lành nghe kinh kể siêu sanh tịnh độ. Phổ quyền tứ thời an lạc, sở trụ phong niêu phước huệ tăng lâm phước thọ. Tùy tâm mãn nguyện âm siêu dương thới pháp giới chúng sanh, tình như vô tình đồng thành phân đạo. Nam mô A Đà Phật. Nguyện đem công đức này hướng về đệ tử và chúng sanh đều trở thành Phật đạo. Xin mời chúng cùng xả chân. Please release your legs before standing.
In gratitude to our parents who have given us this life, our country that keeps us safe, we bow deeply to the three jewels in the 10 directions. Đệ tử chúng con nhân cha mẹ sanh thành quân nhân bảo hộ, cúi đầu kính lễ tam bảo thượng trụ trong 10 phương. In gratitude to our teachers and friends who have supported and shown us the path, we bow deeply to the three jewels in the 10 directions. Đệ tử chúng con nhân sư trưởng giáo huấn luyện vì định thế đàn na, cúi đầu kính lễ tam bảo thường trụ trong 10 phương. In gratitude to all living beings in animal, plants, and mineral worlds, we bow deeply to the three jewels in the 10 directions. Đệ tử chúng con nhân mọi loài chúng sanh cây cỏ đất đá, cúi đầu kính lễ tam bảo thượng trụ trong 10 phương.
Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Con kính bạch thầy, kính thưa toàn thể đại chúng. Trước khi con xin phép được chia sẻ Phật pháp bằng tiếng Anh, xin kính mời đại chúng cùng chắp tay và chúng ta niệm danh hiệu Đức Bổn Sư 3 lần trước khi chúng ta bắt đầu. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Dear respected Thai, dear friends, dear community, today I would like to share about the practice of loving kindness, and it will be a sharing as well as partly interactive, as we will practice together the practice of loving kindness meditation, metta meditation. And I will share about the way that we can practice this practice of meditation in our daily lives, why we should practice it and how we can practice it. The practice of loving kindness is not only refined to meditation, but loving kindness is embodied within our lives. We know many people around us. Perhaps there are many people around us, or even a few people in our lives who, if we think of, we associate them with qualities of love and kindness. And sometimes we try our best to be loving and to be kind. And so it is a practice that is embodied in our daily lives, and is something that is very needed for our spiritual growth and the growth of the happiness in our lives. It also serves as a kind of virtue, a kind of quality that helps us to be happy. And besides from serving as a virtue or quality to help us be happy, it also serves as a kind of protective function, protecting ourselves, protecting others around us, and as well as protecting ourselves in terms of our mind, especially. Because it helps our mind to reprogram itself into the mode of loving kindness. And this mode of loving kindness helps to protect us from states of mind that are harmful to ourselves and others. For example, anger, hatred, ill will, and loving kindness serves as a kind of protection against the harmful states of mind that may arise. Earlier I mentioned the word metta, and the word metta is the Pali word which has been translated into loving kindness. And the word metta is derived from mita, and mita means friend, quite literally. But metta can be translated as friendliness, but at the same time, it doesn't convey the essence of the word metta, or specifically what the Buddha wanted to use the word metta to convey. The word metta is better expressed in English as loving kindness, which captures its meaning more fully. The first part of this word, as you see it's a compound word, the word loving, conveys the inner dimension of this practice of metta, which is a deep concern, care from the heart for the well-being and happiness of all beings, and including in all those beings that which we have a deep, warm, heartfelt concern for is ourselves. And the second part of loving kindness, kindness refers to the way that feeling of love, of deep, heartfelt concern for the well-being and happiness of ourselves and others manifests through our body, speech, and mind. The way that we interact with each other every day is through the way that we speak, through the things that we do. And the things that we do, the way that we speak, the things that we say, have its roots in the way that we think. So this kindness is the love, that deep heartfelt concern in action. And therefore, metta can be translated as loving kindness. When we say that we wish for the well-being and the happiness of ourselves and others, there's a skillful way for us to understand this. Because ordinarily we think that wishing for someone to be happy it's a big umbrella. When we experience happiness, it can be fleeting, it can be temporary. For example, people may be happy going to a party, getting drunk, or perhaps going to a concert, or some kind of entertainment, perhaps watching a soccer game, a football game, a hockey game, and we're happy when we do those things. But within that happiness, there's a little bit of instability and a sense of there's a little bit of instability in that happiness, and that happiness being something very temporary. For example, if we watch a soccer game, we might be happy at first when we see everybody playing, but then in the end, if our team loses, we lose that happiness. Or we might go to a party and we might feel really excited to drink and party with our friends, but in the end, the aftermath of the party brings us suffering. So this kind of happiness that we wish for ourselves and others, and this kind of well-being that we wish for ourselves and others, is not something that merely brings temporary pleasure, but it's a kind of genuine well-being and deep, deep substantial happiness that is grounded in the development of our mind, the way that we live. The reason why I say grounded in the development of our mind is because our mind is the forerunner. Our mind is what leads our speech, leads our actions, and formulates the way that we go, the way that we come to each other, the way that we live in this life. And the well-being here is referring to qualities of the mind that help to eliminate or counter the causes of suffering. Like I mentioned before, there are many, many things that can make us happy, but within those temporary kinds of happiness, they exist within them, the causes of suffering. And this kind of well-being here that we wish for ourselves and others helps us to cultivate more wisdom, more peace in our lives. And ultimately, in Buddhism, we speak of awakening, of freedom, of liberation, and nibbana. And that's what ultimately we want for ourselves and others, to be happy, to be free in body and mind, to be able to attain awakening, like a Buddha. So metta is not only sentimental affection, but it is a heartfelt concern, feeling that, and hope and want for all beings to flourish, to be happy. And like I mentioned before, loving kindness is not confined only to formal meditation, because the life of the Buddha himself, or those people that we see in our lives, who we feel joy, we feel a feeling of warmth, when we think of, appears in our mind, when we think of that person, we feel a feeling of joy, of kindness, of warmth. Those are people who embody happiness. And the Buddha himself, as a teacher, embodied happiness in his, embodied loving kindness in his everyday life through his body, speech, and actions. So his body, speech, and thoughts. And it is also a way to change the way that we relate to other people. Because when we practice to nourish this loving kindness in us every day, the seeds of loving kindness in every day,
it becomes a kind of response, a kind of disposition of the mind that is always ready to meet with every situation in life with loving kindness and with understanding. I once heard from a teacher that as students of the Buddha, we are always ready in our practice. I kind of think of it as develop ourselves or equip ourselves in such a way where we're ready on the front line. But when we respond, it is always responding with loving kindness. And the automatic response in the practice of the Buddha's teachings is loving kindness, of course, with understanding. But the first response on the line is always ready to respond with loving kindness. And coupled with loving kindness is something that is just as equally important, which is patience. And patience is something, is a virtue that helps to also protect us when we're on the front line. In our daily lives, when we're met with situations, with people, even conflicts within ourselves, we are always ready to be patient with ourselves, to be patient with others, and to respond in a way that creates less suffering for ourselves and others, and to respond with loving kindness and compassion. So you can kind of think as loving kindness as your weapon and patience as your suit of armor. The practice of loving kindness meditation actually comes from a story, an incident in the time of the Buddha where around, I believe, if I remember correctly, 500 monks, they came to a forest and they meditated in the forest. And then because the beings, this is a story that comes from the commentaries, but beings in this forest were feeling a little bit unsure about these monks. They welcomed them at first, allowed them to sit at the foot of the trees, to meditate, to rest, but eventually they didn't like the monks being there anymore. And they started to do things to scare the monks out of the forest. And the monks went to the Buddha, and the Buddha said, I will give you one special weapon. And when you go back there, use this special weapon and you will be okay. And the Buddha taught them the practice of loving kindness meditation. So when they went back to the forest and they practiced loving kindness meditation, all of those scary sounds, sights, feelings started to disappear slowly. And we can believe this, or we don't have to believe it, but I think one very, very realistic thing is that if we practice loving kindness meditation in our minds and sustain it in our heart as a way of living, we will always feel protected, always feel safe, always feel happy, always feel grounded. And naturally, other people around us will start to feel safe, to feel happy and grounded around us as well. So, the practice of loving kindness meditation uses some various functions of the mind. Firstly, our thinking, the power of thought, combined with imagination, visualization, mindfulness, attention, and intention to awaken this heartfelt concern for all beings, the well-being of and happiness of all beings. And the purpose of this practice is to help to awaken it, to strengthen it, and to nourish it, to continue to help it to grow and allow it to flower and become a very powerful force within our mind. In the case of the Buddha as our teacher, the Buddha is somebody who embodies metta, who radiates loving kindness. Whether he is standing, he is walking, he is lying down, he is resting, in all positions, at all times, the Buddha always embodies loving kindness. And it was so deeply developed that there are many incidents in the story of the Buddha, the life of the Buddha, where people who
were hostile towards him were transformed by his presence of loving kindness. There were people who came to oppose, to challenge him, to debate him, or many attempts to even harm or take the Buddha's life. But yet through his practice of embodying calmness, compassion, and loving kindness, many people were deeply moved and eventually wanted to become his disciples. There are a few well-known examples, quite a few, but today I will read to you one particular story from a book called Old Path, White Clouds, of where the Buddha tames a drunken elephant. So the cousin of the Buddha, Devadatta, a figure who throughout the Buddha's life opposes the Buddha. The Buddha used to be a prince, and even in their childhood, Devadatta was already very envious of the Buddha because the Buddha had so many good qualities, and in the ways that the Buddha surpassed Devadatta in education, in even in martial arts. The Buddha, as a prince, learned many different things like mathematics, martial arts. So in all of these subjects, the Buddha was exceptionally skillful, and Devadatta became very envious of the Buddha. And throughout the Buddha's life, Devadatta continued to oppose the Buddha, and he nourished within himself the jealousy and the envy more and more and more, up to the point where there were many instances in the Buddha's life where Devadatta tried to harm the Buddha, tried to kill the Buddha. And in this particular episode, Devadatta intoxicates an elephant that is known for its violent temper, and he releases it into the street where the Buddha is walking to go on alms. So in the time of the Buddha and his monks would beg for food from house to house, and they would eat the leftovers or share the food with the people, and in return, the Buddha would teach them the Dharma. The monks would teach them a Dharma, give them a blessing. And the Buddha was going on alms one morning when Devadatta had planned to release this elephant whose name was Nalagiri. And I will read this excerpt from the book Old Path, White Clouds. If you ever have the chance to, and you want to learn more about the life of the Buddha, I would recommend this book called Old Path, White Clouds. It is a very beautifully written book about the life of the Buddha. And it comes from, according to Old Path, White Clouds, the reason why the Buddha was able to tame this elephant, Nalagiri, is because the Buddha had previously been in a forest, living in seclusion in a forest with the forest animals. And there was an elephant in the forest that the Buddha became very friendly with, a monkey in the forest who also became very friendly with the Buddha. And in the end, the Buddha learned many things from these two animals. So I will read this excerpt from Old Path, White Clouds. Beneath the sal tree, the Buddha enjoyed ease, peace, and joy. It was a lovely forest of green hills, clear springs, and a lake. The Buddha enjoyed the solitude. He thought of the bhikkhus, the monks in Kosambi, living in conflict. Even the lay disciples had been disturbed. He felt sad that the bhikkhus were unwilling to listen to his guidance, but he understood that their minds were clouded by anger. The Buddha encountered many animals in the Rakita forest, including a family of elephants. The eldest female, the matriarch queen, often led the younger elephants to the lake to bathe. She taught them how to drink the cool water and eat water lilies. The Buddha watched how she grasped a bunch of lilies with her trunk and rinsed them in the water to shake off any mud still clinging to them. The little elephants imitated her. The elephants grew fond of the Buddha and became his friends. Sometimes the queen picked fruit and offered it to the Buddha. The Buddha liked to pat the heads of the elephant calves, and he often walked with them down to the lake. He liked to listen to the queen's majestic call. It sounded like a great trumpet. He practiced until he could imitate her call perfectly. Once when the queen called out, he also gave a great trumpeting call. She gazed at him and then came and knelt before him as if to bow. The Buddha gently stroked her head. Sometimes the elephant queen picked fruit and offered it to the Buddha. It was the 10th retreat season since the Buddha's enlightenment, but only the second one he had spent alone. He stayed in that cool forest the entire retreat season, leaving only briefly in the mornings to beg. When the rainy season came to an end, the Buddha departed from his elephant friends and headed northeast. And this is continuing in a different chapter, the chapter where Nalagiri is released to intend to harm the Buddha. The Buddha and several monks were begging in the capital when Venerable Ananda looked up to see an elephant charging towards them. It appeared to have escaped from the royal stables. He recognized that it was the elephant named Nalagiri, infamous for its violent behavior. Ananda could not understand how the royal keeper could have allowed it to escape. Panic-stricken, people ran for cover. The elephant raised its trunk, lifted its tails and ears, and headed straight for the Buddha. Ananda grabbed the Buddha's arm and led him to safety, but the Buddha would not budge. He stood calmly, unperturbed. Some bhikkhus cowered behind him while others fled. People shouted at the Buddha to save himself, and Ananda held his breath and stepped forward to place his body between the Buddha and Nalagiri. At that very moment, to Ananda's surprise, the Buddha let forth a majestic cry. It was the cry of the elephant queen the Buddha had befriended long ago in the Rakita forest in Parilayaka. Nalagiri was but a few yards from the Buddha when he heard the resounding cry, and he came to a sudden halt. The mighty elephant knelt on all fours, lowered its head to the ground, as if bowing to the Buddha. The Buddha gently stroked Nalagiri's head, and then, holding the elephant's trunk in one hand, led an obedient Nalagiri back to the royal stables. The people applauded and cheered, and Ananda smiled. He thought back to the days when they were youngsters. The young Prince Siddhartha had known no equal in martial arts. He excelled at everything: archery, weightlifting, swordsmanship, horse racing, and today the Buddha treated an elephant on a rampage as though he were an old and docile friend. The bhikshus and a large crowd followed the Buddha and the elephant back to the stables. When they arrived, the Buddha gave the keeper a stern look, but then spoke in a compassionate voice. The Tathagata does not need to know who ordered you to release this elephant, but you should understand the seriousness of your own action. Dozens, even hundreds of people could have been killed. You must never allow any such thing to happen again. And the Buddha gently stroked Nalagiri's head. The keeper bowed before the Buddha. The Buddha helped him back to his feet, and then he joined the bhikkhus to resume begging. So in this story, which was written by the incident of which the Buddha had tamed Nalagiri, the drunken elephant, we see that the Buddha previously learned the language of the elephants in the Rakita forest. And for me, this is a very important lesson, because with love, there needs to be understanding. When the Buddha was able to tame the elephant out of his loving kindness and his compassion and his calmness, not only from his practice of loving kindness and compassion, but also because he understood their language partially. And we see that the Buddha learned how the elephant cries. And with that knowledge, learning the language of the elephant, the Buddha was able to let out that same cry when Nalagiri was charging in front of him. So, learning the language of our lives between ourselves and others understanding others and their troubles and their difficulties, understanding ourselves, our own selves, and our troubles and difficulties helps us to be able to love ourselves and love others better. Helps us to be able to bring compassion and loving kindness to ourselves and others better, because we understand the way that they are, the way that things are. And so, besides from the Buddha's powerful, developed loving kindness, we see that the Buddha was one who was complete in understanding and love. When loving kindness is cultivated and deeply cultivated, it naturally affects the way a person speaks, a person acts, a person listens, a person walks, and a person carries themselves about. And we can tell in a practitioner when people are able to speak more lovingly, to pause a little bit before they speak, to be able to offer present and complete deep listening, to be able to look at others with eyes of loving kindness and compassion. They are well-practiced and well-developed people, spiritually, mentally. And others around them often sense this warmth, this kind of sense of safety, and even without consciously knowing why, they may feel calmer, more open, and more peaceful in that person's presence. And we know people in our lives who are like that. So when we practice not only for ourselves, but people around us benefit as well. Loving kindness is something that has to develop gradually, and possibly systematically, methodically as well. It's great to understand how lovely compassion is and loving kindness is, but we have to begin very, very small with the baby steps at the beginning. Like when we start a fire, first we light tinder or paper, and from there the flame catches onto small pieces of kindling, and then we gently fan the flame a little bit, being conscious of how much we fan the flame, feeding it carefully, and allowing it to grow stronger and stronger before we add logs, larger sticks, and eventually logs. And in the same way, the small sparks of loving kindness in us must patiently be nurtured until a strong, steady fire of loving kindness and compassion is always warm and burning in our heart. And at the beginning, this practice may feel difficult, but with effort, with mindfulness, with patience and repetition, and repeated cultivation, it gradually becomes a natural disposition of the mind. We always respond with loving kindness. It protects us from anger. It protects us from ill will. And now we ask, how do we practice loving kindness methodically? The great teachers, great Buddhist teachers, as a way to continue and embody the teachings of the Buddha, they developed a systematic method for this practice of loving kindness meditation. And I learned from a Buddhist teacher that these methods varied amongst different schools of Buddhism, but traces back to the oldest schools and was developed before the various schools of Buddhism were divided. So it is a very authentic method of practice. And in this practice, this method, we train the mind firstly to give rise to loving kindness, and then secondly, to strengthen it progressively. And thirdly, we then spread it to wider circles of beings, to the world, to all beings in the world, and beyond this world as well, in the other realms. And the practice proceeds stage by stage using two components. First is a formula, and second is the recipient. The practice operates in this way. We use this four-pointed formula, or there are many different kinds of formulas created for the practice of loving kindness meditation. But today I would like to share with you the practice used by one of the teachers who I respect a lot and I learn from. His name is Bhikkhu Bodhi. And if you have the chance, you can search him up and learn many wonderful things from Bhikkhu Bodhi. He's a very known teacher in our age. And the formula is 4 parts, and we have 5 kinds of people that we practice towards. It's a simple verbal reflection that we kind of repeat inwardly in our mind, firstly to arouse that concern, that deep care, the sense of warmth in our heart for ourselves and others. So firstly, we'll say that X represents the person to whom we are developing loving kindness. Firstly, we start with, may X be well. May this person be well. Whether that person is us, whether that person is another person who we care about a lot, or even someone who is hostile towards us, may X be well. And being well here is the enjoyment of good health, because good health is a prerequisite for many forms of happiness, because if we don't have good health, we don't have the capacity to live well, and our quality of life is not that great. So firstly, may they be well, and being well in terms of good health. Next is, may they be happy. May X be happy. And happiness here refers to an inward state, peace, joy, an uplifted mind. And the third one is, may they be safe. May X be safe. May they be free from danger, from adversities. And especially in our times, I guess in any time, there is always the risk of insecurity. There's every people around us, we hear on the news, we hear relatives and friends getting into conflicts, accidents, natural disasters, and people around the world living in a lot of violence, fear, and instability. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world. And amongst these people in our daily lives, we don't know, it could be our loved ones who may be in danger next. So we naturally wish for our loved ones and all beings ultimately to live in safety and happiness. May X be safe. May they be free from danger and adversity. And the fourth formula is, may all of their good purposes be fulfilled. May all of X's good purposes be fulfilled. Because when we engage in wholesome activities and aspirations, we always hope. And when we see others engage in wholesome activities, when we see others growing in developing their wholesome virtues, we wish for them to succeed and to flourish, to continue to grow in their goodness. Like I was mentioning before, when we wish people to be happy, it's wishing for a kind of stable happiness. And in the Buddhist teachings, we speak in terms of cause and effect. So we always want others to end the causes of suffering, to create the causes of happiness. And ending the causes of suffering puts us off the path of suffering. And creating the causes for happiness sustains us on the path of happiness. As the more that we walk on that path, the more that we practice to do good things, naturally, good things unfold around us. The more that we continue to water loving kindness as a quality in our mind, naturally, loving kindness grows around us. So the formula becomes, may X be well. May X be happy. May X be safe. And may all of X's purposes, good purposes, be fulfilled. We ultimately want everyone to live in such a way and to practice in such a way where they live in such a way where the way that they live leads them to happiness and not suffering. Now, we move on to the next part, which is the recipient. Essentially, according to the Metta Sutta, the Discourse on Love, the Buddha encourages us to radiate this loving kindness to all beings, towards all living beings. But this is not easy at the beginning. And we might ask, depending on the way that our mind works, who are all these beings? And why should I be why should I be kind or loving towards them? And the ancient Buddhist teachers understood this very well. Then that's why they developed this formula. It begins with specific categories of people and gradually moves and widens. So firstly, we start with ourselves. The first recipient of this loving kindness is ourselves. We must learn how to develop loving kindness towards ourselves, not in an egotistic way, like may I taste all of the most wonderful foods, best tasting foods on planet Earth, or may I win the lottery, or may I receive all of the praise that there is in this world. But rather, we recognize the deepest need within each and every one of ourselves is to be well and happy, sustainably. And when we can practice with ourselves, miraculously, this becomes a great basis of understanding to practice with others. Because when we recognize our own deep wish for happiness, freedom from suffering, then we can understand that every living being on this planet Earth wants the fundamental same longing. So we begin, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be safe, and may all of my good purposes be fulfilled. And during this practice, we bring to our own mind the image of ourselves peaceful, smiling, happy, and we generate within ourselves, try to generate this inner feeling in our heart, a warm feeling, a sincere wish for our true well-being and happiness. So that's firstly working with ourselves. When we know how to love ourselves and understand ourselves, it becomes easier to understand and love others. Because we understand our own suffering. We understand the way to practice with our anger, the way to water our loving kindness, the way to water our hope, our confidence, our joy in our lives. And therefore, we know the technique, the way to do that. And we do the same thing for our loved ones. We teach them, we share with them the way to overcome their anger, the way to generate joy, the way to practice to be with their suffering, to transform their suffering. So the understanding of the other person, the love of the other towards the other person is very dependent on how much understanding and love we have truly for ourselves. So next, firstly is ourselves. Next is a dear and respected person. And this second recipient is possibly a teacher, possibly an elder in our family, or any elder, perhaps someone who has helped us a lot in our daily lives, someone who we feel a lot of gratitude and respect for. This is the second person. But not towards someone who we have strong attachment. We bring this person to mind, we see their face clearly, we imagine them standing before us, peaceful, smiling, happy, just as we did with ourselves. And then we generate loving kindness using the formula. Perhaps I choose my teacher. May Thai be happy and well. May Thai be safe, free from danger. May Thai's work in the Dharma and all of his good purposes be fulfilled. So we can pick someone who is dear and respected to us. That's the second part. The third is a very close person, So this third recipient is a very close friend. Traditionally, it is advised that we shouldn't pick a newly formed romantic partner, and we avoid picking a romantic partner in this stage because attachment, our feelings of attachment, can easily become mixed with metta, with the loving kindness. So the difference, there's a difference between this love that comes from attachment and love that is loving kindness. So it's a kind of love that is not possessive. That's why we usually choose a close friend, a trusted companion, someone who we dearly love, but not towards someone who we have strong emotional attachment, because that can overwhelm our mind. And we bring this person to mind, this very close person to the mind. See them smiling and happy, sincerely wish for their well-being through the formula. May they be well, may they be happy, may they be safe, and may all of their good purposes be fulfilled. The fourth kind of person is a neutral person. This is where our loving kindness begins to expand and become stronger. Because it's easy to love people that are close to us. It's easy to love friends and people whom we have trust and people whom have helped us a lot in our lives. But it's hard to have feelings of loving kindness towards a little more, a neutral person. So the fourth recipient is someone who is neutral or indifferent. Perhaps someone we see regularly, but we don't know them personally. Perhaps maybe a cashier that we see regularly every day at the supermarket. Maybe a coworker who we don't talk to too much, but is kind of hanging out there doing their own thing. Someone passing us by on the streets. And in order to connect us more, it's helpful to reflect that this person, although I don't really know them, also have loved ones. This person also wishes to be safe, to be happy, just like me. They're going to work, they're trying to make money to live, just like me. They have a family that's waiting for them, just like me. To see the similarities between ourselves and others, and then direct loving kindness towards them in that formula. May they be happy, may they be well, may they be happy, may they be safe, and may all of their good purposes be fulfilled. The last and the fifth person, the most difficult out of all five, is the hostile person. The person whom we slightly may have disagreements with, or who we disagree with, or who we don't instinctively feel we like. They could be a troublemaker in our lives, a person who continues to become hostile to us and aggressive, maybe a competitive person, or someone who is spiteful. And in this practice, we try to be skillful as well in who we pick, because if we pick someone who is too emotionally disturbing to us, when our energy of loving kindness is not yet that strong, then the discomfort in us will disturb our meditation. So we choose a kind of mild, between mild to difficult person at first. And then when our loving kindness energy is strong enough, then we can include the most difficult person in our meditation. And reflecting carefully, it's helpful to remember that deep down, this person also wishes to be happy, to be well, just like me. And even if they create sufferings for others, they too want to be happy. And perhaps they're seeking that happiness through confused and harmful ways. So having understanding helps us to be able to form compassion and loving kindness. When we practice returning to ourselves to see the oneness between ourselves and others, once we understand it through our own lives and what we want, then gradually we become more capable of seeing the same need in others. There's a famous story. The Buddha, from what I've read, the Buddha uses this to illustrate karma, but sometimes it's used to illustrate practice as well. This is the parable or the analogy of the handful of salt. If we put salt crystals, the handfuls of salt, one handful of salt into a cup of water is very not drinkable. But if we toss that handful of salt into a river, it doesn't make a big difference at all. And we can still drink the water from the river. So our loving kindness is similar. If we have enough capacity within our loving kindness, it will be very easy for us to let all beings into our hearts. But if we have a very small heart, then it's hard to take on the saltiness of that being. So we generate loving kindness towards that person through the formula. May they be well, may they be happy, may they be safe. May all of their good purposes be fulfilled. So those are the 5 categories. Oneself, a respected person, a very close friend, a neutral person, and a hostile person. And then we choose from one person and we expand to more the next categories of persons, moving through the formula slowly. Bring them to mind vividly, see them before you, and let them remain in your mind for 20 to 30 seconds, lingering in your mind as you generate that feeling of happiness, that feeling of warmth, of loving kindness, that wish for them to be well and happy. And sometimes if that feeling it doesn't arise immediately, we don't have to be discouraged, because this practice works by slowly reshaping the way that our mind works. Through repeated practice, our heart becomes greater, softer, more open, more gentle, until it's very easy for us to generate loving kindness towards anyone. And after we finish with the 5 categories of people, we just begin it again, like a cycle. The Buddha teaches that loving kindness can be practiced when we're standing, when we're walking, when we're lying down. As long as we're awake, as long as we're not sleeping, we should sustain this meditation of loving kindness. And the Buddha also speaks on the benefits of loving kindness as well. One of them being we have good sleep. I don't remember the rest of them, but if you have trouble sleeping at night, it's good to practice loving kindness meditation. And after we finish with the 5 categories of people, we expand that loving kindness towards all beings universally. At this point, our loving kindness is like a raging fire, and it's ready to be shared with many around us who need that warmth. So we begin with, may I be well and happy. May the respected person that I've chosen in my life be well and happy. And we kind of condense the formula a bit so that if we're running out of time, we can condense the formula just to wish for them to be well and happy. Then we move to the close person, to the neutral person, to the hostile person, and we start zooming out like the way that you would zoom out on a camera, expanding outwards. May everyone in this hall be well and happy. May everyone in this monastery be well and happy. May everyone in this neighborhood be well and happy. May everyone in this city be well and happy. Everyone in this province, everyone in this country. Then we continue expanding to all nations, all continents, and finally all peoples on this earth. And after we finish expanding it to all people on the earth, we extend it even further to animals in the animal realm, or animals around us. May the animals be happy. Realms that we cannot see, devas, beings in the heavenly realms, may they also be well and happy. Beings suffering in the lower realms, in the realms of hell, of hungry ghosts, beings that live constantly in states of misery and fear, may they be well and happy. And at this point, our metta, our loving kindness is so strong that we will be able to touch those beings. May they be released from all of their suffering and misery. And finally, we bring all sentient beings into our awareness, even non-sentient as well. Because if we look deeply, actually our ancestors, we have rock and mineral ancestors as well. We have ancestors who, within nature, in the practice, we see that we're very connected with all those around us. Sometimes when we are eating vegetarian food, like I shared with an auntie recently, I learned that when we're eating vegetarian food, if we look deeply, actually within that food in which we don't take life to eat, vegan food, for example, there were many, many people who passed away, their bodies being returned to the earth. That earth continued to nourish the trees, nourish the plants, nourish the animals around us, and we end up eating those plants and those, well, if we're vegetarians, then we eat those plants. So we all depend on each other to survive. So we can even move into the non-sentient categories. May all beings be well, be happy, be safe, live in peace and harmony, and fulfill their good purposes. So this is the way that we can practice loving kindness meditation. And now we will try to practice it for 3 minutes, only 3 minutes. And if you like to, you can continue to practice this in anything that you're doing, any position of the body, any position of the body in anything that you do during the day. As long as you are awake, remember, you can practice loving kindness meditation. And this is one of the qualities that the Buddha calls one of the 4 Brahma Viharas, one of the 4 divine abidings, and a kind of quality that has no limits. So we can continue to forever develop this loving kindness without any bounds. This is a special quality of loving kindness, is that it has no limits. So do we remember the formula? The formula is be well, be happy, be safe, and be free. Be safe and free from danger, and lastly, all of their good purposes be fulfilled. That's the formula. 4, may they be well, may they be happy, may they be free from danger and adversity, and may all of their good purposes be fulfilled. The 5 kinds of people. Firstly is ourselves. Secondly is someone who we respect, who we are grateful for. Thirdly is a person who is very close to us. Fourthly is a person who is neutral, who is indifferent. And fifthly is the difficult person, the hostile person. So now we will close our eyes, and I will read to you the Discourse on Love. And you can do this own practice with yourselves. Go through the formula, go through the 5 kinds of people, and we will practice as we listen to the Discourse on Love. So we invite you to practice as I'm reading the teaching that the Buddha gave, which became the basis for this practice. Someone who wants to attain peace should practice being upright, humble, and capable of using loving speech. They will know how to live simply and happily, with senses calmed, without being covetous and carried away by the emotions of the majority. Let them not do anything that will be disapproved of by the wise ones. So in your mind, bring up the image of yourself, smiling, happy, and try to feel, perhaps in the center of your heart, to generate a feeling of warmth towards yourself. May I be well. May I have good health. May I be happy. Truly happy. May I be free from danger, from adversity. May I be safe in this world full of danger. And lastly, may all of my good purposes be fulfilled. And this is what they contemplate. May everyone be happy and safe, and may all hearts be filled with joy. May all beings live in security and peace, beings who are frail or strong, tall or short, big or small, invisible or visible, near or far away, already born or yet to be born, may all of them dwell in perfect tranquility. And perhaps you can move on to the next person, someone who is dear and respected to you, like a teacher, like your mother and father, your grandparents. And go through the formula. May they be well, may they be happy, may they be safe, and may they fulfill all of their good purposes. Let no one do harm to anyone. Let no one put the life of anyone in danger, and let no one, out of anger or ill will, wish anyone any harm. Just as a mother loves and protects her only child at the risk of her life, cultivate boundless love to offer to all beings in the entire cosmos. And once you're finished, you can move on to the next image of a very close person in your life, a very close friend. It is okay to pick your husband or wife if you've been married for a long time. Someone who is there for you every day in your life. And go through the formula, wishing them well-being, happiness, safety, and that all of their good purposes be fulfilled. Let our boundless love pervade the whole universe, above, below, and across. Our love will know no obstacles, and our hearts will absolutely be free from hatred and enmity. Whether standing, walking, sitting, or lying down, as long as we are awake, we should maintain this mindfulness of love in our own heart, for this is the noblest way of living. And we can move on to someone who is neutral in our lives, someone who we see every day, we don't particularly know, wishing them to be well, to be happy, to be safe, to be free from danger, and all of their good purposes be fulfilled. May all things that they do lead to happiness. And share the warmth that we can generate from our heart to that person. Free from wrong views, greed, and sensual desires, living in beauty and realizing perfect understanding, those who practice boundless love will certainly transcend birth and death. And now, finally, perhaps we can move that loving kindness to share it with all beings, everybody in this hall, in this monastery. We can skip the hostile person for now and move our loving kindness to everyone in the hall. May everyone here in this hall be well. May everyone here be happy. May everyone here be free from danger and adversity. May everyone be safe. And may everyone's good purposes be fulfilled. So thank you, dear brothers and sisters. This concludes the sharing for today. And remember that you can continue to practice and radiate loving kindness in everything that you do. And in the sutra, the Buddha says very clearly, may all beings live in security or peace, who are frail or strong, tall or short, big or small, invisible or visible, near or far away, already born or yet to be born. May all of them dwell in perfect tranquility. And that includes our loved ones who have passed away. So when we practice loving kindness meditation, we can radiate it towards our deceased loved ones as well, because they also fall into this category of being invisible. Perhaps we might feel that they are far away, or they're in the process of continuing into the next life. So thank you so much for your listening, for your practice. And now we will join our palms to dedicate the merits. Nguyện đem công đức này hướng về khắp tất cả đệ tử và chúng sanh đều trọn thành Phật đạo. Thank you. So please release and